Hi, and welcome back to another AI in 5. As always, I'm your host, Simon Chris. Joining me today is Alex Papli, and Alex is the principal AI consultant at Hypergen. We're going to be talking about how organizations need to rethink scaling AI agents. Hi, Alex, and welcome to AI in 5. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Simon. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Now, look, we often have discussions around things like AI agents and agentic AI and things like that. What are you seeing going on in the market right now around AI agents?
Well, there's certainly a lot of hype. There's a lot of talk. I think my LinkedIn feed is littered with all these different packs of, here's an agent we've built. Do you want to sign up for it? And we'll give you the recipe. So
Yep.
yeah, lots of hype. And I think through that, a lot of confusion from customers on where do we start, what do we need to do, and how do we actually get going there.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing, right? It's not even the how do we get going, but it's how do you scale these things? Because there's always a chance that you're building an AI agent that only two people in the company use, right? So how are organizations scaling this stuff?
It's such a good point. Yeah, and I think a lot of people think that they can be an all singing, all dancing single agent. And certainly I've worked with some pretty big companies with tens of thousands of users. And what we've found is that when you give the agent too many things to do, they're not always as reliable. And
Yep.
so one of the things we're looking at and have been doing is designing multi-agent solutions, which is around almost segmenting them. So if you imagine and you can try it for yourself, if you go into like your favorite, chat GPT or whatever, and you ask it, here's an item or something like that and classify it, but give it 20 different categories and say, you've only got to pick a handful or something like that. They seem to deteriorate in terms of the quality once you sort of hit 5 to 10. And so the same thing goes with agents because they're just running
Mm.
an LLM behind the scenes. And so
Okay.
what we find is that the best thing you can do is actually just compartmentalize them, have a single agent do a certain thing, have another agent have something else that it's quite good at, maybe with lots of knowledge. But then you bring them all together. And we find that way you can actually scale out a lot better.
Yeah, so instead, what you're saying is instead of one massive agent, 20 small agents that do a job.
Correct. And yeah, so you think about it if I just pick an arbitrary number of like 5 to 10 functions each,
Hmm.
rather than having one agent that gets itself to bit maybe confused when it's got 15 or 20 things to do, you might say, look, let's give you 5 or 10 things you're aware of, but then those are all agents. So you get this multiplier where if you've got sort of 10 agents down the bottom, all with 10 capabilities, you've got theoretically 100 different things that this single agent can do at the top that's coordinating. And so we find that that's a nice way to try and scale these things out and make them more useful.
And does that affect at all the cost to implement or the cost to run or anything else? Like, are there downsides to using multiple agents?
I think, well, the biggest downside is I'd say, do we actually need it? So that's the bigger piece that I look at and say, let's before
Yeah.
we start building these things. But I think to answer your question, yeah, look, the more things you do, you've got to explain them, you've got to think through the prompts. So yeah, there's just more effort involved to make them all work. But I wouldn't say that it's suddenly it's just probably a more efficient way of getting the same outcome. So I'd say once you hit a threshold, then you probably think we probably should do multi-agent because it'll just work better. But in general, the more instructions, the more context, yeah, just the more effort, really.
Yeah, okay. My brain's going. What's the coolest application of an AI agent that you've come across so far?
Look, I've seen. Funnily enough, the one that's the coolest is actually probably quite simple. It's a single agent, but looks over a knowledge base, is able to pull a whole lot of different information to help pull a press release together. If you think about it, examples of past press releases, and all the other, things like here's the way that our organization wants to speak, all those sorts of things. And it being able to go along and actually go through each one of those examples and know which one to pull, pull out the right quotes at the right time from the right person, have the right media contact. That's actually been really interesting to see because you look at it and go, it does solve a problem for a particular team and speeds that process up, but keeping it simple actually is quite effective.
Yeah, wow, that's some great advice. Look, we're almost at time, and I love to ask people the same question. I'll ask it of you, which is for an organisation that's just starting their AI journey, what should they be thinking about? What should they be focusing on?
I'm a really big believer in getting your people to understand how AI works. And the reason I say that is that there's a lot of hype and talk around AI is transformational. But
Hmm.
as an AI consultant, when I'm working with customers, I can't go to them and say, here's 15 different things that are going to revolutionize your business because I don't know your business. And so
Yep.
the best thing I find is that if we, help them actually understand how they can use AI, then the best ideas come from within. And then it's a process of just helping them prioritize, rank, determine complexity, all those things to then actually accelerate. So I'm a big believer in getting key people in an organization that aren't just the leaders enabled, because it really helps them actually come up with the best ideas.
Yeah, I've often said the best money spent in AI is helping people understand what it is. Alex,
Absolutely.
this has been a great AI in five. Thanks for being a part of it.
My pleasure, Simon. Good to see you again.